Puzzles, scavenger hunts, and wild goose chases that have been both highly developed and others hidden in plain sight. This week, the Jackalopes will explore mysterious puzzles in history. I'm Floyd Whiting.
And I'm Aaron Linden.
And I'm Steve Sisson.
And I'm Emmy Whiting. And we have some breaking news.
Breaking news.
Breaking news. This is pretty interesting. Yeah.
I'll get... Wow. I will get Grant a photo to input, but earlier today, we're at the radio station, and the phone rings. And James, who's on active reload, go check that out, with Grant, the producer, check that out, picks up the phone, and he's like, hello, Shared Media, this is James. Okay. In the sky? And I immediately pop up because I'm like, there's something in the sky.
Something's in the sky.
So he gets a little more detail on where it is. We go outside, we start looking around, and there it is. It's this little thing in the sky, just floating there, hanging out. It's still there right now. Schreffler got a photo of it that Grant will use. Chinese spy balloon part 2?
Yeah.
I don't know. It looks very
crazy.
similar to an organization called, what did I call it? World Optics?
Something
Like that. That is a surveillance balloon, and it's clearly carrying a payload. So
Yeah.
we'll see if it's still there after the show, but it hasn't moved in the last hour and a half.
And we've watched like very large clouds pass by. So
It's
this
way up
is
there.
being controlled to stay in one spot.
And according to sources, they said that this type of balloon can actually be operated for up to 3 weeks' time.
So
via
who knows
remote
how long
control.
it's going to be there?
I don't know. That would be unnerving.
It
After
is a
while.
little unnerving because everyone who we called didn't know about it.
No one knew about it.
No one knows about this thing, and it's not like they're trying to hide it. It's
Right.
a pretty good sized balloon.
Right.
You can tell it's definitely something, and it's not camouflaged or anything like that. It's just sitting there. So they're not trying to hide whatever they're doing. And who knows? You know, there's
Well,
so many uses for these things.
And the creepy thing about this too is that there's a website, Ads Be Exchange, and it tracks and monitors all air traffic so that planes aren't crashing into each other. I looked it up; it's not on there, so it's clearly not.
It's not
ours.
registered with the FFA, maybe.
It gives me the heebie-jeebies.
It's a heebie-jeebie
Because
thing.
as
man.
soon as I got here today, Floyd just, I'm like, ooh, Floyd, you look so nice. You look so good.
we're all
And
like
he
this.
turns me around. And he's like,
Look at that.
look up at this. And I was like, what am I looking at? So I'm staring, and all of a sudden I saw it, and I was like, ugh.
Right? It's not hard to see.
Like,
No,
They're
but if you're
not.
not looking for it,
Yeah.
oh, yeah,
you
blend
never-
right in because
yeah.
it's
You
white.
wouldn't-
Especially if a cloud was behind it
Yeah.
or under it. That's
Right.
one thing that we noticed. It's so high that there are clouds passing
yeah.
underneath this thing. So, I mean, size-wise, this thing has got to be humongous.
Yes.
Like, if you got that down here, I'll bet that balloon is as long as our driveway.
oh yeah,
Like, once you lay it out.
Yeah.
I'll easily, because this thing is big enough that you can see it from where we're standing in our parking lot. And I mean, you can kind of tell what it is. You know, thanks to
but
Shrek,
you go through binoculars. I mean, we looked at it and we were
Yeah.
like, oh crap.
you can tell. Yep.
Yeah.
So who knows what this thing is? But
it's a puzzle.
Stay tuned.
is.
it's a puzzle.
Segue.
It is a mystery.
Cicada 3301 is the name given to 3 sets of puzzles that were posted under the name 3301. Now, this is between 2012 and 2014. The first puzzle started on January 4th of 2012 on 4chan, and this thing ran for nearly a month. A second round of puzzles began 1 year later on January 4th, 2013, and then a third round following the confirmation of a fresh clue that was posted on Twitter, we now know by X, on January 4th of 2014. Many people believe that the third puzzle remains completely unsolved. I don't know if I believe that. I think that maybe it has been solved, and as we go through who's posting these, I think you'll agree with me. If it was solved, you wouldn't know anyway. The stated intent by Cicada 3301 was to recruit intelligent individuals out in the public by presenting a series of puzzles that were to be solved. Now, no new puzzles were published on January 4th, 2015, but a new clue did come forward on X or Twitter on January 5th, 2016. The last Cicada 3301 verified post was OpenPGP signed message in April of 2017 that was kind of denying the validity of any unsigned puzzle. So you know how these things are when someone goes out there and they're like, this was a very serious series of puzzles. And of course it birthed a lot of copycats, you know. People are like, oh,
Always.
I'm Cicada 3301 or I am. And so what they did, whoever Cicada 3301 is, they used an encrypted way to sign their messages. And the thing of it is, these puzzles are so complicated that the average individual is going to go right over top of these things and not even really understand what's going on.
Right.
I mean, that they posted an image that required the use of another app to open up. You look through it, and it just looks like a bunch of random code, right? Because every photo or image online, you can get the code information, the metadata, right? Well, buried within the metadata was the name of like a Roman emperor. And so people are like, well, what is that? But then a series of digits afterwards, which led you to another clue, which led you to a book, which led you to another clue. I mean, this thing just goes on and on and on. And it wasn't like we're going to sit down and get this solved in 5-10 minutes. You could spend days solving this. And then once you get one puzzle solved, it was just another clue to get to another puzzle that may be dealing with some sort of, you know, high-ranged encryption or a book or a cipher. They went as far as to use, within this huge series of puzzles, you were dealing with Mayan numbers. You were dealing with old, I believe it's old pre-Christian literature. Like they were extremely complicated. And once again, you know, the intended purpose, 3301 was actually quite open about why they were doing this. They were there to recruit highly intelligent individuals. Although the actual purpose of this whole thing kind of does remain unknown because 3301 hasn't confirmed anything. Theories have included claims that Cicada 3301 is a secret society with the goal of improving cryptography, privacy, and anonymity. Others have accused them of being a cult or a religion that is trying to recruit super intelligent members. According to several statements of individuals who actually figured out the puzzle in 2012, 3301 typically uses non-puzzle based recruiting methods, but created the Cicada puzzles because they were looking for potential members with cryptography and computer skills. So this secret society, whoever they are, don't generally operate in this world. So they were looking for someone to.
They needed
an
IT guy.
They needed they needed an IT guy. But Sisson, I mean, like these puzzles focused on data security, cryptography, stenography, internet autonomy. It was actually listed as one of the top 5 unsolved mysteries of the internet by the Washington Post, because this wasn't an amateur sitting there doing. These were pros. I mean, at one point, actually more than one hint to these puzzles was a music file but the music wasn't the clue.
Have y'all ever watched South Park?
Mm-hmm.
Not for a while, but yeah.
Yeah, it's
The
been a
brown note.
Right, yeah.
I am aware of the brown note, though, because that's the kind of stuff I like to know.
And you're a musician,
Right.
so you probably know it and you're not telling anyone. Don't whistle anything.
I'm taking away all your instruments.
So, but I mean, like, people had to figure out one clue and then come back to a music file that they had received, break down the data of the music file, and then that's like the numbers to your next clue. These things were extremely complicated. And a lot of times, Cicada 3301 would make statements where they're like, it's right in front of you. You know, like
Right.
these statements were very general, but they're like, don't make this more complicated than what it is. You're not searching for the Holy Grail. But then all of a sudden, because of a statement like that, people were like,
We're searching for the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
there's the clue. And then that led them to a book containing the Holy Grail, which contained a cipher,
Wow.
which then they had to figure that out, which led them onto something else. And then they posted another clue where the photo of what the statement that they made was a square, but then people started to realize it's not actually a square. And so they had to measure the pixels of the photo.
I do not have the dedication.
Right? Yeah, you got to have.
And that came out to like prime numbers that you then had to multiply by another number given to you by another clue, which then gave you another clue. This led to phone calls, but when you call the phone, you're thinking someone's finally going to give me an answer. It was a message that just gave you another clue. And it took you into the real world. Through the course of these puzzles, you got grid coordinates that led you to locations on almost every continent where a poster was on a wall that gave you a clue to go from there. So it was a real physical thing all over the world.
Man.
So whoever they are, they're everywhere.
Yeah, you think about
They're
what
big.
kind of
Yeah.
organization and operation it would take to build this puzzle.
Oh, it's incredible.
It's not just some people in an office somewhere.
Right. And I mean, this show doesn't really have the time to get into this, but there are other, conspiracy programs out there, folks. Look this up because this puzzle goes on and on and on. And it even got to the point where Cicada was saying, look, if you're sharing information, we know. And if you
Right.
share information from this point on, you're done. So, they were never like rude or anything. They were just like, we can't accept you from this point on if you share that information. They came forward at one point and basically said, look, we're a group of like-minded people who believe in taking down tyranny, who believe in freedom of speech, who believe in security. And if you're involved in illegal activities, we're not. We don't want anything to do with that. So, no questions asked. If you've reached this point and you want to continue your illegal activities, we won't ask any questions.
So-
You're just done.
I do have a question. So if this is all over the world, is it defined by where you're at in the world, like illegal activities?
Right.
Oh,
Quite possibly.
maybe.
Yeah.
Or is it just like general, don't murder people, don't do all that good stuff?
Well,
Or
and
bad
at one
stuff?
point, the puzzles take you into the dark web. Now, we use
I don't want to be on that.
I know, but we use that statement and people automatically are like, ooh, gross. But what really is the dark web? If the internet was a box type store, like the big department stores, the dark web is the back room. That's really all it is. Your email accounts are back there. All that private information that you have is back there. It's like what's kept in reserve. All kinds of pages that have fallen off the regular internet are back there. It's like an archive.
Yeah, but it's also bad stuff.
But it's also where people go because it's an onion drive. And it like you can't get there with a regular browser. Because an onion drive essentially is like an onion. It has to go through multiple skins of security and encryption to get to this information. And yes, there are illegal activities on the dark web, all kinds of horrible things. But there's a lot more to it because journalists use the dark web to talk to whistleblowers, because I can't figure out who you are on the dark web no matter how hard I try. And if you're in a government agency and you need to come forward and say this agency or that person is dealing in illegal activities and I need to talk to the press, you need your safety intact. We've all, I mean, even here lately, people have disappeared who came forward whistleblowing on major corporations, right? Mysterious deaths and stuff like that. Well, they do that so that you don't talk. It scares the hell out of people. So illegal activities and horrible things that damage people don't get done. So people turn to the dark web because I can be protected and yet have a conversation with a journalist who can help report this to the open. So it does have its benefits. But yeah, most of the time when we hear about the dark web, it's pretty bad stuff.
And it's not as dark as it used to be.
No, yeah.
I mean, when it really first evolved, there was some super sketchy stuff going on. But now the government's in there monitoring things anyway, so it's not as dark as it used to be.
Is it kind of like levels? Like the deeper in you go, the worse it gets. And I
don't think, not necessarily that. There's only so many. I mean, if you think of it as a highway, there's only so many exit ramps, and it used to be that people could procure those exit ramps. The government's procured most of the exit ramps at this point in time. So anything that's data that's going through there, they're kind of monitoring.
Okay.
And I've never technically, I think, ever been on the dark web. Like I said,
that's where you wink.
But
as far as I know, I've been there.
But it takes a certain kind of browser, and I don't even know what the hell that is.
Tor.
I don't know. Well, there you go. And these puzzles actually used that a lot. They also used another app that within I think it was their first message. You'll have to double check me on this, folks, but I think it was within their first or second message when people weren't figuring this out. They gave a hint. And then if you took the words...
That defeats the purpose.
I know. Right?
Well, but see, here's the deal. You're not going to catch it because, you'll go down this rabbit hole trying to solve this puzzle. And the answer to the puzzle was literally, I think it was the photo of a decoy duck. And it said, a lot of decoys this way. Don't. And then they said something. But then if you took those words in that last statement and you switched them around... It was the name of an application that tears down the data of photographs so that you can look at a photo and yet changing the settings on the photo and you'll see a message within the photo. You can't do that without this particular application. So they actually used this application multiple times within the puzzle.
So it was kind of like, don't break the law, but we want to know that you're nefarious enough.
Enough.
And see, here's the deal.
You'll toddle right on that edge.
Yeah.
If we think about, if we were a group of like-minded individuals who wanted to make sure that we just weren't being watched. In the United States, they tell you that you're not. But I think we all know now we're all being watched, right?
There's a balloon in the sky.
And there's a balloon in the sky.
Right. Well, and there's these devices too.
All the time.
Right.
So more than likely, you're being monitored. You're probably on a list somewhere. Just us having this show. Just us having this show. And the information that we've Googled trying to find, what we're going to talk about, or let's look into this conspiracy theory. You're on a list.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Where they're like, okay, well, these people cover these conspiracies, but they're mostly funny. They don't get too deep into it. They try to keep
They don't go above a fifth grade level.
Not above a fifth grade level. So I think we're good to go. But at the same time, agencies are still watching you. So I don't really like that either. I don't think anybody does. Not because you're doing anything nefarious, but because it's my human right.
Yeah,
It's my
just
human
the right to privacy.
Yes, I
And
have the right to privacy.
I will say, do I willingly carry my cell phone everywhere I go? Absolutely. And that's why
That's how they got you.
Yep. You,
That-
you tap
yeah.
that little I agree box.
Yes, exactly, without reading it.
Yeah, exactly.
Never read it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's 18,000 pages. Who's going to read
No,
that?
I'm not going to read it.
well, see, and that's
Well,
the thing.
and
They
it's
know
all
that.
legal
Exactly.
jargon that
Yeah.
you're never going to
I
understand.
mean, I've tried. I've got like
anyway.
3 or 4 paragraphs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
Like, I just want,
I just want, I just want to get to where I'm going here.
Well, and that's, I mean, they set it up that way, right?
They actually, at one point, someone had made an app that went through all those user agreements looking for trouble phrases.
Yeah.
Really?
And it would highlight the stuff that could potentially be problems, but I don't think it exists anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The app itself?
I don't think so.
No, those people probably.
Does it still exist? Grant says it still exists.
Okay.
But nobody uses it.
So something does exist out there that, well, if you want that, look around. There's probably something more than likely operated by a government agency
right.
that will help you do that.
But when my point being with my cell phone is like, that's why when the things were coming out about the vaccine having trackers and microchips in them, I'm like, I'm carrying my microchip.
Yeah, you're already
Like-
being tracked. Yeah.
I don't give one shit. I
it's
already
like-
am carrying
you're already
my
doing it.
microchip.
Well,
You're already
again,
giving it to
and, you know, it's like, if you're not doing anything illegal, what do you care? You know, but again, because
Yeah, but
it's
if I'm
your
not doing anything
human
illegal,
right.
then don't look at me.
That's right.
It's your human right to your own privacy.
Well, I
right?
think the thing is, like, you know, we've willingly entered into that agreement.
Right.
You know, when said, okay, this is happening, you just like, oh yeah, I want to play this this game. So
Minesweeper.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Never mind.
yeah. So we all opted in.
Yeah, we did. We opted in. And just like when people get worried about, does the government have your DNA? If you're a service member and they are gathering it, they've got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Multiple
Oh, yeah.
times. That's just the way it is, man. I don't think, you know, even like 20,000 years from now, if they're like, we're going to make a clone army of Floyds. I don't know why they would. You know, a bunch of people sitting around smoking cigarettes complaining about the service. So they'd be like, that didn't work. That didn't work. We're going to have to sell
Scrap
that.
it.
Scrap that.
Or they
That's
all just hate each other for some reason.
Look at all this self-loathing going on. It's horrible. Why is that one drinking again? Yeah, I mean that's. And everyone who served with you is like, wow, he's right on the nose. So I mean, it doesn't. It's all kind of inconsequential to me. You know, it's.
I
like,
just wonder, though, what kind of list all these people
Right.
that participated in the Cicada? 330?
Cicada 3301. Yeah.
It's
What
a much
kind
more
of list
exclusive
they're
list.
on? Because, I mean, you talk about like opting in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You go, okay,
Yeah.
I'm going to play your game. I'm going to try and figure out your puzzle.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, Floyd's trying to figure out to put him in. Put him in.
Well, and even if a government agency had no involvement with Cicada 3301, they were watching it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for
You
sure.
know that they were like, pay attention to this. What if this is a foreign agency
Mhm.
trying to get Americans or you know, intelligent individuals from a foreign country recruited into their agency? Because a lot of people don't understand. You know, we watch like popular movies about the CIA, and there's always this really cool special agent, you know, like Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise, that kind of stuff. But the true CIA, I'm an American, man. I'm not getting in the doors that I need to get into. So they recruit someone who's already there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's how this operates. You got to make a double agent. You got to find someone that, you know, is disenfranchised with their government or something like that. And they're like, okay, yeah, I'll work for you on the inside. And you're the handler. That's pretty much how they actually, you know, do a lot of espionage, because you and I aren't walking into a Middle Eastern, you know, power plant. They'd be like, what the hell is this guy doing? You know, wait. But we could recruit
Yeah, I'm like
somebody.
with OSHA.
Yeah. I'm
So-
checking radiation shields.
If I was a government agency, though, if I was NSA, CIA, or MI6, I would sit back and be like, who's recruiting
Mm-hmm.
these people and why? And I would be pretty damn interested in that.
Right.
And so I would watch who's playing and who's getting pretty far. because each puzzle became more and more complicated. They were rooting out the people who don't have patience, because how long did this go on? 3-4 years?
Right.
I'd be gone. I'm sorry.
Right?
Broke.
I do
is what
not
I'd be.
have that virtue of patience.
Yeah.
But then it takes you to a physical location on a continent, so now you got to actually be there physically. So that takes a whole new level of resources and dedication. And this is like, this is an online puzzle for people to play with. But then all of a sudden it starts getting serious. Now I need you to fly here, look at this one thing, fly home, and start to solve that puzzle. People who did that, that's who, if I was an agency, I'd be like, I'm going to keep an eye on. You know what I mean? So Aaron's got a point. If you played this for a long time, someone probably watched you do it.
Oh, yeah.
And may even be interested in you. Because NSA, the CIA, and MI6 have all used this type of thing as a recruiting tool. The Enigma machine. That code that the Nazis made was cracked by a group of people in Great Britain who had solved extremely complicated crossword puzzles in their public newspapers.
Yeah.
And then the government's like, okay, this guy solved it, send it in, let's go talk to him, see if he wants to be a code breaker. What an excellent way to find people who wouldn't generally walk in, you know? And when they do this type of recruiting, the NSA and CIA, they bring people in, they're like, okay, well, this is who we are, this is how we got you here. You want in or not? And people can say, I'm out. Because there are people who've come forward and said, I don't want to work for the government. I just like solving your puzzle. Okay, that's cool. And they walk away. But damn right that they're like, keep an eye on him.
Yes, because also we approach them now, and we don't want everyone knowing.
If we approach them,
what if someone else?
They're going to approach.
That's right.
Yes.
Because now you're in that spy world, man. And if I'm being watched by my own agency, I know I'm being watched by that agency because that agency's like, why are they watching that guy? And, all of a sudden everyone's interested in you for probably a long period of time, too. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty cloak and dagger type stuff that's going on consistently, and I'm sure, someone's taking a briefing with somebody, in Langley, and they're like, well, we've been watching this dude for 6 months, and he cuts his toenails. Like, he's the most boring human being on the face of the planet. Who cares? And then they drop it or whatever. But because I think most people are actually pretty damn normal, despite what other people.
I love how
actually
that's the example you used. He
Yeah,
cuts
his
his toenails.
What if he
That's a
doesn't cut
boring
his
mandate.
toenails?
If he doesn't, that's creepier.
How
Listen,
does he do it?
My
right.
best friend once took off her shoes. I could not believe the length of toenails, and I was like, "Don't touch me with those."
So where did
She's
they come
on a
from?
list. I know it.
A lot of people have come forward and said, some QAnons have attached themselves to Cicada 3301, but there's been absolutely no evidence whatsoever about that. Like I said, whenever something big happens, someone else is going to try and attach themselves to it to try and get attention.
I'll just tell you right now, it's me.
Conservative Christian groups have come forward accusing Cicada 3301 of being a recruitment tool for dark web occultists, saying that you're recruiting for satanic groups or whatever, and it's just funny. The funny is that, like, the Church of Satan is actually made up of atheists. They don't, so it's funny, but there's no evidence that they're linked to.
I think that might be how it started out, but I think people have their own beliefs in that.
Well, and they jump forward and try to attach themselves to anything that gets popular or use it to further their own agenda, really. But I think after looking into this for a little bit, I think Cicada 3301 was actually just a group of individuals who were probably pretty dang intelligent and believe in inalienable rights of humanity. And they're like, we're seeing other things happen that can be very, very negative, and we want people to at least kind of, because they described themselves as a think tank at one point, where, if I had a room full of some of the best cybersecurity individuals who are patient enough to solve a puzzle over the course of the next 3 years, and we find an organization that is trying to break into, let's say, everyone's emails, then we could literally say, let's try and stop them from doing that. Let's write some code that maybe, puts up a firewall or a door that they can't get around. And even if we can't ultimately stop them, at least we can slow them down and have them question, is this worth the money or the effort to do? People get hacked every day. A lot of organizations get hacked every day. I myself have not been hacked, but like organizations and companies that I belong to have been hacked, and they're like, just so you know, this got out, and they have to set out this warning.
Yep.
It's just the same thing that I've always told everybody. Just be aware of what you're putting online all the time, because nothing goes away, and your social security number should be like a very closely guarded secret. Don't be handing that out to anyone, and don't use password as a password.
Damn.
But what if you capitalize the P?
It's like, now I got to change all my
Put 1, 2,
shit.
3, 4 after it.
Yes. Oh my God. Like that's the Pentagon was hacked by an individual, and we talk about it on another show. And the reason why is because people were using the word password.
Or it was
That is
unprotected.
just
Or they didn't even have
Yeah.
one. Yeah.
It was
He was like, I don't need
admin.
one of those. Yeah, admin, yeah.
And that hacker got in there, and he was in there for what, like a year?
Oh, he was in there
Like
for
over a year.
finding all
That's
kinds
too
of stuff.
long.
And it wasn't until somebody got at the Pentagon got in there and suddenly realized that the mouse was moving, and they weren't the ones moving it, and they were like, "Oh crap!" Like, could you imagine that? You're working at the Pentagon, you see that, you're like,
I'd
"We're
be
screwed."
like, oh no.
I'd be like, God, make it not my workstation.
Someone get the boat, because we're going way up Shit's Creek on this one, and it's gonna roll downhill, boy.
Yes.
So, all right, but that was mine. It's, like I said, a lot of people say that it still hasn't been solved, but some people feel that it was. And because Cicada, the deeper you got into these puzzles, they were like, don't share this information, stop telling people where to go.
Right.
And so the farther you got down in the puzzle, the more secretive you had to become. So they could have solved it. And then Cicada was just like, okay, you solved it. Great job. Don't tell anybody. Come join the organization.
How awesome, though, like you're in, I don't know, Tanzania.
Yeah.
And you walk up and you're looking at this poster, and 3 other people walk up and they're looking at it, and you're like, oh, crap.
Right? Like, where did this even come from?
You guys doing the whole cicada thing?
You too, huh?
Like a National Treasure where the little kid's got the pencil. He's like counting the letters.
Yeah, right.
And he's walking off and giving it to somebody else.
Let's see. That's a Ooh, that's a good idea. I wouldn't approach the poster. I'd pay someone to approach it
Yeah.
for
Right.
me.
Ooh,
Yep.
yeah.
Yep. Give a little kid $5 to go up there and
Yep. Take this phone. Go take a photo of that kid and bring it back. Yeah. Ooh.
No, and you don't use a phone. You use one of those little...
yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Spy cams.
Yes.
We need to bring those back. Those things were amazing. All right. So I'm gonna move on to Emmy. What'd you find?
So I figured when we were talking about puzzles and, things like that, I was like, you know what? I've always been interested in geocaching.
Geocaching.
Oh, yeah.
It was so huge
Yeah.
back in the early 2000s.
Yes, and it's always kind of been something where like you hear that and you're kind of like, oh, that's kind of underground, that's kind of secretive, and it's really not.
Yeah. It's pretty out in the open.
It's like there's apps everywhere for it, and they have very strict rules on it and
Yeah.
everything. So first off, I'd just like to explain what geocaching is for anyone who doesn't know. It's an outdoor recreational activity, as they say, in which the participants use GPS and other navigational techniques to hide and seek containers called geocaches, or caches, either way. And then at specific locations, they're marked by coordinates all over the world. So, you could be in the United States and go find something in a different part of the world, which I think is really cool, actually. If you have the means to go do that, and this is just something you like to do, and gives you an excuse to explore, and yeah, it's
and you
pretty
love
cool.
hiking. That's all we need is another reason for you to say, let's go to the top of that hill.
I do love hiking.
She loves hiking.
And there's like this huge, I think it's in Colorado, where it's like this huge staircase. And I'm like, I want to go on that. I want to bring my inhaler and go on that. So the first geocache was placed in 2000. And by 2023, there were over 3 million active caches
Holy cow.
worldwide.
Caught on, huh?
Yeah. Isn't that cool?
Jesus Christ.
Yeah,
I
it's
was
crazy.
like, oh my God.
Yeah,
Like
there's a ton
three-
of them up here in the mountains.
Yeah.
Oh, bighorns?
23 years
Yeah.
later. See, I know. And now doing all this research, I'm like, I really want to go do it.
Yeah.
So how it works. Geocaching can be considered a location-based game. A typical cache is a small waterproof container containing a logbook and sometimes a pen or pencil. The geocacher signs the log with their established code or username and dates in it in order to prove that they found the cache. After signing the log, the cache must be placed back exactly where the person found it for the next person to find it. Larger containers such as plastic storage containers, Tupperware, or similar things like Tupperware, or ammo boxes can also contain items for trading such as toys or trinkets.
Mhm.
Usually the items are more sentimental versus financial,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
was like, I love trinkets. I love trinkets.
Like
I love
Trinkets
trinkets.
and hiking.
Hey, you could,
I know
Checking
where
two
Floyd's
boxes.
going this weekend.
yeah, right. I know what we're doing. But I mean, like, it's pretty neat. You could just take like something like a little rubber duck, right? Like people who own Jeeps will
Oh, man,
understand.
I
yeah.
got a whole dashboard full of them.
There you go.
Yeah.
So like it's a rubber duck thing.
Yeah.
Right? You leave a rubber duck on or near another Jeep for that Jeep owner to be like,
Yeah.
hey, right on.
I was looking at some of what like people have left. There's like Rubik's cubes, and someone left like this little mini pack of Uno cards, and I was
Oh,
like,
fun,
oh my
yeah.
God, I would love that.
Oh, you're so going geocaching.
Yeah.
I'm downloading the app
Yep.
tonight. I was gonna say tomorrow, but it's tonight. I'm downloading. the app.
Heading into the wild.
Yes.
Well, and it does give you an excuse to get out and go have fun.
Exactly.
You can just take a trinket and leave something, take something, trade it, and then you can just continue that. Like, use this trinket to leave next time, and all of a sudden, next thing you know, this little Snoopy has gone all over the freaking world.
Yeah.
Yes, I
Something like
love
that.
it. Isn't that so cool?
It is kind of cool.
So over time, variations of geocaching developed. There are so many. I was like, I can't even give examples because we'd be going into like an hour-long spiel. Like there's so many different variations of geocaching and how
Like
it
different
works.
games
Yes.
people have set
Yeah.
up to keep it going.
And different types, and it gets really complicated in some of them too. So that's why I was like, I don't have time to go into it, but look it up because the variations are actually pretty cool.
So with these, like, how do I get on an app? So I just get an app, and then that gives me a grid coordinate that I can follow?
So it looks like why it started being called geocaching was there's actually an app called geocaching.
Okay.
So like just Google it. It's the top thing, and it gives you all the rules and regulations because there are rules
Yeah.
that you have to follow, and
There's
just
etiquette.
and
And
how
it's-
to do it.
It's
Yeah.
the geographical coordinates. So
Yeah.
you're 27.012 north and blah blah blah. And so apps are great, especially because these take place in cities, even like
Yeah.
New York and stuff.
Yes,
If you go into more remote places, you actually have to have a satellite.
like with us, we'd probably bring a map.
Yeah. Either a map or a GPS.
Yes, because
Satellite
in the
GPS
mountains
device.
you're not getting any.
Yeah, you're not
reception.
getting a signal up
Yeah.
there.
Well, and in 2000, when it really started, that's how it started. People started with these GPS devices,
Right.
and they were looking for something fun to do with them.
Mhm.
And what a great thing to do, Well, bury this journal or whatever, and
Right,
people
yeah.
can sign it when they come up to it.
Yeah, and then just leave little things.
And then leave
little
like something
things
fun.
and stuff. I love it. So, here was some of the rules I found. So, the geocache listing websites have their own guidelines. So, there's plenty of different websites that you can go on for this, and each one has their own regulations, policies, things like that. But government agencies and others responsible for public use of land often publish guidelines for geocaching too. I don't know
Oh,
why I
really?
want to keep calling it geocaching.
So the
geocaching.
government, this has gotten so popular that the government's like, they're going to use
Yes.
public land.
Yep.
So
They have to put something up for
let's
it.
make a regulation.
Well, and again, with over 3 million active caches right
Yeah.
now, that's
Yeah, you can't put it in the middle of like, some sort of archaeological
yes.
Yeah, right?
place,
A
like
dig
a
site
teepee
or
ring.
something.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. And then let's see here. Okay, so there's also a geocacher's creed, quote
Oh.
unquote.
Did you memorize it?
I didn't.
Oh.
After you download the app, do that first.
Passed on that one.
And then
What's the one creed on The Mandalorian? This is the way.
This is the way.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's posted on the internet. Asks participants to avoid causing disruptions or public alarm. So that's one of those things that's like, don't do that
yeah.
because it makes the rest of us
Don't
look bad.
geocache your nuclear bomb.
Yes. Generally accepted rules are to not endanger others, to minimize the impact on nature, and to respect private property and to avoid public alarm. So
Yeah.
that's kind of the baseline for all the different sites. It's
Real
like,
simple.
don't do this.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
Right. Which
Simple.
for some people, that's tough.
Yeah. Some people have to be told not to do that.
Yeah.
So throughout geocaching, there's been missing people. So geocachers that have gone missing, ended up dead. People were found, like there was this one.
Torn apart by Bigfoot?
Maybe.
Yes.
Abducted by aliens?
They weren't
Ooh.
found, so maybe. So there was this one, actually. They were geocaching. It was a couple people. They went to these coordinates, and at these coordinates, there was a crashed car, and there was a person still alive in there.
Oh, wow.
Oh my god.
So they called the police and got them out.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
And I thought that was actually really cool.
Wow.
But then there's also been other ones where they've gone to a location and then they can't get out.
Mhm.
So then they've had to call for rescue.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So there's a level of danger in it, and I love it.
Well, I think that's what
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah, that's what
Checking
makes
all
it
the
fun. A little
boxes
bit
for
of
you,
risk.
isn't it? Yeah.
You
It
are
is.
so going.
And here is the final checkbox. There was, in 2020, June 19th, there was a body discovered at coordinates.
Ooh.
Ooh.
And okay. Don't get too excited.
It's the true crime thing. Here we
Yeah.
go.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I love true crime podcasts. I love true crime documentaries. I'm all about it. So, of course, when we talked about the subject, I was like, I know what I'm going to do.
Mm.
Anyway, so on June 19th, 2020, a group of teenagers in Seattle were out exploring a remote beach, and they weren't actually using a geocaching website. It was more so a coordinate spot website. So you would go explore these areas.
Okay, so there wasn't like a location that you needed to find. It was
Yes.
just a location to go, hey, this is a really cool site.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. But, it had similar attributes to geocaching. So
Right.
So these group of teenagers were out exploring the beach, and they discovered a body inside of a suitcase.
Oh my god.
Yes. And so they were actually
Next
filming
level.
a TikTok, because they did this a lot, where they went to these coordinates and they were like, oh, look at this space,
Right,
look how
right.
cool this is, or what we found here, or things like that. So they were filming a TikTok, and of course, they were filming this suitcase.
Oh, that's horrible.
And one of them was like, oh, go open it, go see what's in it. Because they're teenagers.
Well, and you would think someone left a suitcase
Yeah,
there,
right.
probably full of
Yes.
trinkets, right?
Absolutely.
Money.
And so one of them opens it, and they're like, it stinks. Like, they didn't open it all the way. They were like, it smells horrible. What is going on? And so, of course, they open it, and they find a body.
That's terrible.
And I am unsure if they found 2 suitcases or just the one, but there were 2 suitcases found with 2 separate bodies.
Oh my god.
And so they were actually using an app called Randonautica, if that's how you pronounce it. It sends you to randomly selected geographic coordinates. And the app, is really popular during 2020, during
Right.
lockdown. Kids needed to go out and do something, especially teenagers. You can't sit at home with your parents. It's boring. We learned that, didn't we?
We did. We had a teenager at the time. She wasn't
She wasn't home very
she
much.
wasn't enthused with the activities that her parents did as
Yeah.
we stared at each other.
So This is something I found very interesting. So the bodies were later identified as Jessica Lewis, 35, and Austin Wenner, if that's how you pronounce it. I don't know. I'm sorry. Hope I do. Who was 27. This was something I found a little interesting because it's called geocaching, and Austin's nickname on multiple websites and sources said that his nickname was Cash. So I don't know. I just thought that was a very interesting
Sounds like
thing.
more string to
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Link around.
Yep.
Yeah.
Right
Yes,
around
you
the
should have
little
seen our
thing.
living room this morning. The red string was everywhere. But Kitty kept eating it, so I
Yeah.
put it away.
But maybe just because he never used a credit card. Maybe that's why he had that nickname.
Ah,
Yes.
I like that.
Who knows? But there was not actually a connection made from this app to the finding this crime scene or location. There was never a connection, but there was a lot of conspiracy theories around it. Like,
Right.
why did it lead them right there where there was a suitcase
Right.
there? And, there was a lot of speculation, but no connection was ever actually found. It turns out these people's landlord, they got in a disagreement about things, and the landlord actually ended up,
Oh my gosh.
yeah. So,
Wow.
I thought
He's
my
like, where do I put
landlord
the
was-
bodies? Let
yeah.
me go on Rando Nautica.
I'm gonna look something up real quick.
that's
Hang
the
on.
thing. But if you wanted the bodies not to be found,
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and-
Put it
Horrible
on there.
place.
Yes, I don't think the landlord, and I won't even say his name because he's a piece of shit. But
So it just kind of like coincidentally happened to be an area that
yes.
He probably thought it was remote and
Right.
no one would go there. Yeah, not knowing
Mhm.
there was an app that led people literally right to that spot.
Wow.
Right.
So-
And I think
Wow.
there's going to be a lot of conspiracy theories about when people go missing while they're doing this kind of thing. Why did they go missing?
Mhm.
What's
Oh, yeah.
there?
Yeah.
Like, aliens, Bigfoot, who
Right.
knows? And I thought this was a very interesting thing because I think it can lead to a lot of conspiracy theories.
Mhm.
And it has. So,
Well, geocaching itself is just like a fun,
I wanna
little
go.
puzzle way that gets you out into the world. We were camping this year, and a lot of times you'll come across like those rocks that have been painted,
Mhm.
right?
Yep.
And we were walking around. It's kind of a big, quite popular public campsite where I grew up. And
don't
so,
say where, though.
I won't. But we were walking around picking up garbage, left by others, just trying to clean up the area. And there was this concrete slab with a wire.
Like
That
a
looked like a
rusty
handle.
wire, and honestly, if you had not been looking down at the ground, you would have never
You
seen
never-
it.
you would have never
know,
seen
it.
it.
Was just because it's just concrete. There's rocks everywhere. It looks like a big rock.
And I
But-
thought, I'll get rid of that, And so I leaned over to kind of pick it up, and there's an opening.
Yes,
And
it is square.
It comes down. It's about 1 foot by 1 foot.
Yeah.
Cut into the ground, full of these painted rocks.
Yes.
Ah,
Just right there.
may have stumbled upon a geocache.
Quite possible. Like
Yeah.
out in the middle of freaking nowhere, just full of these rocks. And so Emmy contributed to it. So
Yes.
Oh, nice.
we know where it is, and maybe we'll return there one day and
Yeah.
see what's up. But yeah, I was like, that's
It-
got to be like a geocache. or
Yeah, it would have
something.
been very hard to find.
Oh,
if
absolutely.
We weren't just staring at the ground, picking up trash. So.
I would have walked right over top of that thing. Never
But
even knew it was
I'm
there.
serious. I'm downloading the app. I want to know what the hype is about. I want to see if we can just go up, up into the mountains through Buffalo and just find something.
Yeah.
Find something cool. Bring
Be
some
fun.
trinkets.
There's
I have so
probably-
many.
stuff there.
Yes.
Probably quite a bit. I
Yeah.
mean, the Bighorns are a major hiking destination, not just because they're beautiful, but because Cloud Peak and
Mhm.
and Bomber Mountain.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We have a bomber that crashed during World War II at the top of a mountain, and although the remains of the individuals who were aboard that bomber have been removed, it is still considered, like a gravesite to
Mhm.
a lot of
Yeah.
us around here. And so if you are one of the individuals who hikes up there, don't take a piece of the plane home
No.
with you. Leave it there. It's where some individuals passed away, and sadly, once they got up there, they realized that one of them survived the crash itself.
Mhm.
And this was at the peak of this mountain in the middle of December. What, just a terrible nightmare. So just leave it alone. Go up there, visit it, pay your respects, go home.
Anyway, geocaching, we're doing it, and if I go missing, I go missing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get picked up by aliens.
Yeah, you could come back and have been probed and have a story to tell.
You know, here's my deal, man.
I'd make a horrible joke, but I won't.
I'm the Travis Walton. Me and Aaron are both.
Yep,
I'd
we're
say,
gonna
are
run
the-
right.
we're
Yeah,
the
you
Travis
can, yeah.
Waltons.
Tractor beam.
I'm not going to run away from it.
I'm
gonna go
running
towards
away.
We've established
by the
that.
way.
Yeah.
So, Steve, did you find something that you want to talk about, or do you want to?
Just real briefly, looking at the cicada stuff, I came across one that in Arizona student newspaper, the University of Arizona, the Daily Wildcat. Every year since 1981, around May 1st, there has been an ad taken out in that paper, and it's been known as the May Day Mystery. And it's been in multiple different languages throughout the years. Typically, the ads are signed with a little smiley face type logo. No one, after all this time, knows what its purpose is. It typically has messages of like social unrest and revolution kind of themes to it. The first message was "Long live Chairman Mao" in simplified Chinese, but it's gone on all kinds of different paths from there. But there's a website now that archives all of the scans of these ads. They're typically in the most expensive advertising area in the paper.
And nobody knows where they come from.
No, somebody at one point, I mean, they could trace who was buying the ads, but only for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years, I think. And it's been going on for, 40 years. And he said, well, I am the legal counsel for somebody, and didn't name who that somebody was. So a total mystery. No one knows what it's about, but there's, people are finding clues in these messages, and there's a website where they're gathering all of this information. And
Cool.
That is kind of cool.
yeah, and it's been going on for 40 years.
That's awesome.
So, what are your thoughts on the Cicada 330? I mean, you're our IT guy.
Initially, my first thoughts is some sort of government agency would have the resources to build a puzzle that elaborate. But I don't know. I mean, it doesn't really have. There's certain things about it that don't have that government flavor to it, especially like their kind of objectives are almost not what the government's about.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't really know. I mean, it's some sort of secret society, I think. I don't know anything.
New
about
World
it.
Order.
Yeah.
No, I don't know, man.
Maybe
New
it's
Illuminati's
just
too
like
big.
a person who's been doing it for so long and just like laughing at
Lizard people.
themselves, It's like, let's see.
Well, and see, that's the thing about it, though. Who put those posters up?
Mm-hmm.
That's true. It's got to
They
be
were
multiple
all
people,
over the
I feel
world. That
like.
wasn't like a centralized location.
Yeah.
This is a group of individuals.
Yeah.
Aaron, what did you find?
I'm going to cover snipe hunts. No.
Yes, I love a good snipe.
Right? Has anyone here heard of the legendary Fen treasure?
I don't think
The
so.
Fen treasure. Yep.
Yeah.
He would.
Okay.
He
Of
would.
course, yeah. I mean,
So
yeah.
Forrest Fenn was a decorated Vietnam War vet, and upon returning to the U.S., he went into the art gallery business down in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Ran a successful gallery, purportedly grossed about $6 million a year out of this place.
I wish.
In 1988, Fenn was diagnosed with cancer that was likely terminal. This inspired him to hide a treasure chest in an outdoor location with the purpose of creating a public search for it. He considered using the location that he hid this at as his final resting place as well. He later recovered from the illness in 2010 and self-published a book called The Thrill of the Chase, a memoir, a collection of short stories from his life. He decided that the treasure chest should contain gold nuggets, rare coins, jewelry, and gemstones, things that he procured from his art gallery.
Real treasure.
Real
like
treasure.
Legit treasure.
The real deal. And he went on to write that he had hidden this chest in the mountains somewhere north of Santa Fe.
Huh.
Pretty big region. So the story from the book included hints to where the chest's location was and a poem in the chapter called Gold and More. And it contained 9 clues that would lead searchers to the chest. The poem stated, "As I have gone alone in there, and with my treasure bold, I can keep my secrets where, and hint of riches new and old. Begin it where warm waters halt, and take it to the canyon down, not far, but too far to walk, put in below the home of Brown. From there, it's no place for the meek. The end is drawing ever nigh. You'll be no paddle up your creek, just heavy loads and waters high. If you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down, your quest will cease. But tarry scant with marvel glaze, just take the chest and go in peace. So why is it that I must go and leave my trove for all to seek? The answer I already know. I've done it tired and now I'm weak. So hear me all and listen good. Your efforts will be worth the cold. If you are brave and in the wood, I give you the title to the gold. Any
That's
clues?
incredible.
Any ideas where that is?
man.
No, there's a lot in there to unpack.
Right. So the book and the story prompted a long-term treasure hunt throughout the Rocky Mountains of New Mexico, Colorado, Wyoming, and Montana. The value of the chest was estimated to be as high as $2 million, depending on the appraisal of the items at the time that they were discovered, if they were discovered. So during the years that followed in the publishing of Fenn's book, Randy Blue, Jeff Murphy, Pastor Paris Wallace, Eric Ashby, and Michael Wayne Sexton all died searching for this treasure.
Wow.
Which stirred a bunch of controversy. They're like, look, guy, if you say you put this treasure chest out there somewhere, if you didn't, you need to stop.
Yeah,
you need to
you're
tell
killing people.
It's not worth it. Because these people were serious. I mean, there were guys and girls that would take weeks, if not months, to come from places like New York, Michigan, California, whatever, to search for this, because they read through this. And one of the gentlemen said he memorized this poem and thought about it for at least several hours a day.
Wow.
Trying to figure out where this was going to be. So other problems that came along with it were people were digging in places that they should not have been.
Right.
Either in National Forest Service or on private property, things like that. So there was a kind of a big outrage because nobody believed that this was true. Why would he take $2 million worth of stuff and go bury it somewhere?
Yeah.
So purportedly, the treasure chest featured a bronze construction with a wood liner and a locking front clasp. According to Fenn, it weighed about 22 pounds, and its dimensions were only 10 inches by 10 inches by 5 inches. The chest featured scenes and reliefs with knights scaling walls on ladders and maidens above throwing flowers down upon them. The style of work appeared to reference the La Roma de la Rosa poem about the pursuit of love and scaling the castle walls. After 10 long years of hunting, someone claimed to have found the legendary treasure. No one believed that the treasure had been found because nobody believed that the treasure was real. So people, even though 10 years later somebody claims to have found the treasure, hunters went on for multiple years after that because the guy would not come forward. So finally, Jack Stroff, a 32-year-old Michigan native and medical student, was identified as the person that found the treasure. Fenn's treasure was found in the Rocky Mountain region of Wyoming near Yellowstone National Park.
Really? Wow.
But I mean, we've all, seen National Treasure or some great mystery hunt, Cicada 3301, and you romanticize that. You're like,
Absolutely.
I'm doing it. I'm going to go find a geocache. Like, I mean, there's something that compels us to go on these adventures. And yeah, it's a great time outside or whatever, but people are dying.
Yeah.
Stuff's getting dug up that shouldn't be getting dug up. But it turns out it was there. And at the appraised time, it was valued at $1.2 million.
Wow.
But I just love the whole tie-in because I had remembered this story from, forever ago, that it was found in Wyoming. So I thought that was kind of a cool little tie-in.
Well, and a lot of times, you hear that the old adage, it's not about the destination, it's the journey.
Right.
And I think that's what puzzles are. When I was overseas, on a little trip. I had my mother-in-law sent me a whole series of puzzle books, and just those little wooden puzzles, like a nail or
I love those.
a horseshoe.
Yeah.
And those things would keep me busy for the longest time. There was something to do. They kept my brain active. And when I'd solve them, I get that shot of dopamine,
Oh,
baby.
yes. Oh,
yeah.
I'm like, oh, yeah, there it is.
Because I used to play escape room games on the internet when I was a teenager.
And when you get that door open,
Yes.
boom, that
It
shot
feels
of
so
dope.
good.
That dopamine in your head, that's it, it's kind of like the Cicada thing. Some individuals came forward and basically said, they want you to write code. That's what this group wants. And I don't want to do that.
Right.
I want to solve puzzles.
Right.
Which is why I solved all these puzzles. It's the journey. It's not the destination. Yeah, sure. The treasure, that's awesome. But what a story and legend attached to the treasure. $1.2 million. Who wouldn't love that,
yeah,
right?
And I think
But it's
getting
more,
it.
He thought, and this was the guy that thought about it for hours and hours and hours every day, that ended up finding it. And that's more it. Just like he said, when he found it, it wasn't the triumphant Hollywood. The music comes up and the birds fly out of the trees. He said it was just there.
It's a box.
Well,
Yeah.
it's kind of like, now what do I do?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I spent all this time.
I dedicated my life to
yes.
this.
Right,
And
yeah.
I think that's why a lot of the geocaching, I don't know why I keep wanting to call it
Geo.
geocache. Oh my God.
Very
Sounds like
French sounding.
It sounds like a
Geocache.
Pokemon, doesn't it?
Geocache.
Geocache. So geocaching, I think why they don't make it financial is because they're like, it'll get too extreme.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
People will get too extreme if it's a financial gain. It's just trinkets and cute little things.
Well, and like Aaron said, $1.2 million. How many people gave their lives for that?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it's, jeez, man, that's not that much money, especially in this day and age, you
Right.
know? So,
It's interesting though, because you go back and you start thinking about this poem that he wrote, and where the warm waters halt. Well, right outside of Yellowstone, where all of the geothermal hot water, becomes cooler again, and on and on. And you can kind of, it's armchair quarterback, right?
Yeah,
You look at
yeah.
it and you're like, I would have thought
Yeah.
that.
No problem. Yeah.
I could have done that.
yep.
Yeah.
Says it right here.
I was like, what, 14 at the time? I would have gone, whatever, 18.
But it's about the hunt. It's not the treasure you got in the galley. It's about being a pirate.
Right.
That's the fun part, right?
Yep.
It's not about the treasure you find. It's about being a treasure hunter. There's the romance. And there are real life treasure hunters in this world.
Like Indiana Jones.
Like the individuals who discovered the Titanic.
Right?
Yeah.
They discovered more than just that. That individual has developed an entire technique on how to find ships on the floor of the ocean.
Yeah.
He's developed technology on how to do that. These people are treasure hunters because there has been treasure lost to the sea throughout mankind's history. And it's not just gold and silver and gems. It's wine. It's oils. It's goods that were shipped by Rome
Right.
are being found to this day. That is a massive treasure. Maybe not in the way that a lot of people think it is, but think about what that contributes to us as a humanity, history-wise, knowledge-wise. Even just having that is something amazing. And it's almost worth more than the gold and the silver, because what's that going to do? It's going to melt it down. Who cares? It's just another financial gain. Finding other things makes you a legend. Finding the Titanic made that man a legend. If you would have found some gold bullion, well, just throw it in the pile of gold bullion we got in the back. Who the hell cares? Right? Who cares? But if you find an ancient ship, it's the ship that's the treasure. So, I don't know. Being a treasure hunter takes patience, dedication. Being a puzzle solver, patience, dedication. There's a lot of puzzles in this world, and some of them can be pretty fun. Others can be deadly. So you just gotta everything in moderation, right? And
Yes,
what they say.
absolutely.
Everything in moderation.
For me, if it goes beyond, it's under a big W, I'm not going to go any further than that. That's as deep as
I'm
I'm
gonna
diving.
search all the W's, and if it's not there, they're
Yeah.
walking away from it. Yeah. But some people have that dedication where they're looking for that charge of dopamine, that charge where it's like, I solved it. You know, could you imagine being on that ship when someone's like, "There's the bow.
Mhm.
We found the Titanic."
It was a boiler. They saw the boiler
This
first.
is the boiler. Yeah,
Wow.
boom, and you knew.
Yeah,
I
that
got
would have
it.
been just.
There's
Think
video
about
of that, and the excitement is amazing.
Yeah.
Years
I gotta
and
Google
years
that
of
'cause-
searching.
Oh my God. Could you imagine? Or like even my father, who has ridden a lot of mountains in the region where I come from, he's discovered the location that the U.S. Geological Survey has put these marble posts into the ground with, what did he say they were? Brass or copper tops. Like
Mini
Beautiful.
pyramids.
they're beautiful.
Mm.
But they used them to mark where the Oregon Trail was.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool.
Now there's many Oregon Trails. Okay, there's a lot of ways that people got to the west. My father knows the locations of these things, but he will not share them with anyone
Mhm.
because the ones that have been shared, not by him, but have been shared in the past, people
Been
steal 'em.
stolen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They steal them right out of the damn ground. And Dad told us, he said, I know the location of a few of these, and I'm not telling anybody about it because this is, a treasure, and people go and take it. So he's just leaving them there. He won't tell anyone where they're at. But I want to see at least one. I would like it if Dad took us on a ride.
Just put the gunny sack over your head and
Yep,
ride you out
just-
into the
yep,
woods.
exactly.
Yeah,
I
that'd
just
be
want to
the
go
way to do
on an adventure into the mountains and find trinkets.
it.
That's right. And again, that's a treasure hunt.
Yeah.
And that's enough for us. And that's fun. And it's amazing. My dad took me to a ghost town once when I was a little boy that nobody knew it was there. Dad said he was out riding one day and just came across it. And some of the only evidence that there was even a town there was he could walk you around to these piles of what were once boards. And the bottles over the ages just fell right where they were as the boards decomposed. And so there's these blue and, bottles and clear bottles and just hundreds of them. And Dad's like, this was probably the doctor's office. Because all these bottles were full of something at one time. It's just really cool little treasures that are out there. Just got to explore, see what's out there. And who wants to take the last thought?
I want a metal detector, and we're gonna go out. We're gonna go out into the mountains. I've wanted a metal detector for so long.
She's
But
been
anyway,
asking for a metal detector for a while.
I don't know what Cicada or Cicadia.
Cicadia 331
Yeah,
or 3301.
I don't know what the end goal was, obviously, but I could definitely see it just being something fun for people who are really into puzzles and tech.
Yeah.
I could see it just being a geocaching kind of thing.
Mm.
But I could also see where you're coming from, thinking, let's find these intelligent people who can help us in our goal, like further our goal, whatever that may be. So, but all I got out of this episode is how much I want to be a treasure hunter. So,
There you go.
yep.
And sometimes that's all you need. Spark of inspiration causes a wildfire down the road. You've been listening to the Jackalopes Explore.
Little
And you're going
poetry there.
Yeah.
I liked
You're
it.
going geocaching.
I'm going
No doubt about it,
geocaching.
yeah.